This is the 2016 PAT paper, and we'll start with question 1. And in this question, all we're asked to do is to differentiate the expression x times sine of x squared. So if you want to have a go at this yourself, pause the video now. Okay, so one thing to note before we do any working out is, in the question in the original paper, this is written as sine x, and then this little 2 up here, and there aren't any brackets here. So how do we know that it's sine of x squared, as opposed to sine of x all squared? Well, the reason we know that is when we do sine of x and then square it, we put the 2 here instead. So we pronounce that sine squared x, and this is instead sine of x squared, so we're taking x, squaring it, and then doing sine of that. Okay, so with that in mind, we know some rules for differentiation, so we have to work out which ones to use, and we need to figure out what's the form of this expression here. Well, the first thing to notice is it's a product of 2 functions, and when we have a product of 2 functions, we use the product rule. So let's call x f of x and sine x squared g of x, and then we know that the product rule tells us that the derivative of this is just going to be f times g dash plus f dash times g. So that's our product rule. And now, well, we've written down f and g, but we need to find f dash and g dash, so let's do that. F dash is easy, we're just differentiating this function, and the derivative of x is 1. And then for g dash, how are we going to find that? Well, now we need to remember another rule. We have a function applied to another function. So what we're doing is taking x, squaring it, so that's one function, and plugging that into sine, that's the second function. And what's the rule we use in that case? It's the chain rule. And the chain rule just tells us when we do this, when we differentiate this, we differentiate the outside function, that goes to cos, and then we multiply by the derivative of the inside function, which is just going to be d by dx of x squared. And now we know the derivative of x squared is 2x, so this is just 2x cos x squared. And now we've figured out f dash and g dash, we can just plug them into here. So we're looking for the derivative of this whole expression now. So first we have f times g dash, so that is x times this expression here. And then we have f dash times g, so that's 1 times this expression. And now we just tidy up a little bit, this becomes 2x squared cos x squared, and the 1 we don't care about because we're multiplying. So we just get 2x squared cos x squared plus sine of x squared, and that's our final answer.